Hey, DCL podcast fans. This is a rebroadcast of our live show, which we did Sunday night, April 18th over on Facebook. I know not everybody's on Facebook, and I do apologize that is our main spot. We also have a YouTube channel, which you can go to and just go to YouTube and type in DCL podcast. You should be able to find the links there, but we broadcast them live to both our Facebook and to our YouTube channel. This one featured Chris's time down at A Touch of Disney. And as I said, just because I know that not everybody can watch this live and not everybody is necessarily on Facebook, we want to make sure we put them up on our regular podcast feed as well. So I sure hope you enjoy this look at Chris and Seth's time and his friends as they travel down to Disneyland, Disney's California Adventure, for A Touch of Disney. And now, on with the show. Well, hello, DCL podcast fans, and we are live at the Cove again. Pretty excited to have Christy and Chris back with us again. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good. How are you, Steve?
Not too bad. And Chris has got a big smile. He's recently returned to the land that he loved.
I did. I loved it. I hate it. No. Yeah, I did go there. Also, I forgot this is coffee at the Cove. I don't have any Cove drink.
Well, I mean, it's Sunday night, so I'm drinking Pellegrino.
I have water.
Have a phone.
So yeah, kind of a low key night. It was a busy weekend for us, so if I'm a little tired, I do apologize, everybody. And I know Christy had a big weekend. Christy, I know you were busy too.
Yeah, it was just a lot because I was just recently in Michigan, and so recovering from my whirlwind trip there and being back, and we're exhausted.
Well, I hope everybody else has been having a good weekend out there. It's been a beautiful one up here in the Pacific Northwest. It was 81 degrees. We went over to some friend's house yesterday and did a little, everybody's had their vaccination. So we went and had a little pool party. It was nice, socially distanced, of course, still, because we're trying to do our thing. But it's not about what you and I did this weekend, Christy. It's all about Chris. And so
all about Chris. That's his favorite.
It is. And I think one of my favorite things is Chris's trip reports, because I just love your sense of humor. But you got to go to A Touch of Disney, Chris. Let's how do you want to kick it off?
Well, you can first kick it off with the missed opportunity that they did not call it A Taste of Disney. Like, what?
Right?
Why is it being called A Touch of Disney? So we can start there.
Okay.
Because you couldn't even touch anything.
You can't touch anything. It's literally about tasting things. It's a confusing moment for the marketing team, but you know what? The pandemic has taken its toll. So that's what I'll blame it on.
You know why? Because they're doing a taste of all the festivals at Walt Disney World, and they didn't want to confuse people because it's not their full festival. It's the taste of
Food and
Flower
wine.
Garden.
Oh,
well,
gross.
Food and Wine, though, is going to be the full Food and Wine. They did not add the words taste yet, but it was Taste of Flower and Garden. It was Taste of the International International of Arts. So taste of everything. And they used up that word already.
Okay, well, I guess I can somewhat understand. I still feel that it's a missed opportunity because in California, I guarantee you that most Disney fans have no idea what's happening at Disney World. But still, you're right. It could be confusing. So good point.
So just to kick it off, this is a ticketed event. You got on and got tickets a couple weeks ago when they first went on. I know it's sold out, right?
Yeah. So Steve and I were going to go together at one point, and we were texting back and forth the day that tickets were on sale. And I was like, I don't know. I have the spinning wheel of death waiting. And I have no idea if I'll be able to get in. I had a ton of friends who tried to get in and couldn't get tickets, but eventually I had a couple tabs open and one of them randomly was like, "You're in." And I went in, I bought tickets for the 17th. And I got tickets for Steve and his family. But unfortunately, sports, which of course, sports
is your favorite.
It's my favorite thing in the world, got in the way. And Steve's, son had a soccer game that got moved and it was just going to be impossible to fix it. So instead, I brought 4 friends with us last minute, just sort of like who was free and who was vaccinated, because we felt most comfortable eating masks off with people who are also fully vaccinated. You know, we don't have to spend much time on that. That's just a personal choice for us. And yeah, it was actually our first time doing that. I also figure I'll mention quickly, because it's not super easy to talk about, but sometimes I get emails from folks to my like Bright Disney email for the podcast, asking me about what is it like to foster children and what's that process been like for you. I'll mention that last week we did lose one of our foster children, or the foster child who was placed with us no longer is with us. And that's been really emotionally difficult for us. And so this trip came at like the perfect time, because we were really grieving what we were missing. And so, there was a lot of tears last week, and to end it in a way that was sort of distracting, and literally the first time we had been with friends without our masks on in over 14 months. It was actually a really just great cathartic way to go into this trip. So I'll just say that. I don't want to spend a ton of time on that because it's sort of rough, but I did want people to know, because people have emailed me and reached out asking questions, and that's an update on the family front. Where are we at, Steve? What's your next question? Or
well, let's just kick it off. So it didn't start until 11:30. So you guys drive down there and park somewhere. I don't know, in the Mickey and Friends parking lot or whatnot.
Parking structure. Yeah, okay. It's included in your ticket. $25 normally to park there. So the way they were justifying the cost of these tickets, they were $75, but it included parking, which is $25, and it included a $25 gift certificate to get you started on your food. So it's sort of like what they're saying is it'll cost you $25 to get into California Adventure and eat and spend money and shop. However, most people are carpooling to things like this, so it's not like that $25 parking fee is going to be used across every ticket. And $25, as many of you Disney fans know, is not enough to eat your way through a food festival. So it's sort of like, here's 2 dishes that you can afford. Also, alcohol wasn't included. So I would say that it's still a pretty pricey event. And I don't actually envision an event like this selling that well in a non-pandemic environment. I don't foresee them not having rides and attractions open in the future if it's at all possible, because it really wouldn't be a compelling cost if it weren't for the fact that we were starved for Disney.
Chrissy had a question. You're muted.
Darn it. As it related to the parking, was parking included in your previous annual pass holder anyway?
So they've been phasing that out, and eventually it was you could only get parking included in your annual pass if you had the highest levels, or you could pay like $200 or something extra to add it to your pass, which if you do the math, it's like, okay, I need to go 8 times to make it worth it. And of course, if you had an annual pass, you probably would go that many times, but I don't actually know what parking costs at Disney World, but at Disneyland, parking is a premium. So $25 per car is how much they're charging.
$25. I don't know either because we don't pay for parking, but I think it's $20 or $25. I'm almost positive it's $25, something like that.
If there were ever a racket, it's the parking at a theme park, at a
no
Disney
kidding.
Theme park. It's very expensive. And so, Mickey and Friends, the fact that it was included, also the parking was physically distanced. So nobody parked in a space on either side of you. It might have even been like 2 spaces on either side of you. So it was very much when you got out of your car, even though everyone was arriving at the same time, you were not around other people. And then I'll basically tell you what it takes to get to the front gate. We go through, you exit the parking structure, you go through the old tram stop, but instead all that's there is temperature checks and bag security checks. Then you walk, I want to say, if I'm using my runner's brain, you're walking like maybe 3/4 of a mile to get to the entrance, or maybe even a mile. I don't know. It's far to get from the parking structure all the way to Disneyland. Maybe it's like a 15-20 minute walk.
So it's kind of like when you drop your bags off at a Run Disney event at the marathon and then
it's
walk.
It's like walking to the start line of a Run Disney event. Exactly. You're basically walking, though, on the road that the trams used to drive on. So it's enclosed on either side of you. and there's signs for A Touch of Disney everywhere, and lots of signs that are like, just a few more steps. And you're like, what you mean is 5,000 more steps, but okay. And there were benches. It's that long that they needed to
Oh my God, there were benches?
Benches, hand sanitizer literally every 50 feet, trash cans every 50 feet. And
We don't have any of that at Walt Disney World.
And basically just people walking really far. But because of that, what was great about it is there really wasn't a wait at the turnstiles, because it was like all the turnstiles are open and the road itself is thinning out the crowd. And so by the time you get to the gate, you just pick a turnstile. You don't have to wait more than 2-3 minutes to get in. So
genius.
In that sense, it's very much like, not as terrible as maybe it could have been, because it sort of felt like the line was essentially a mile long and never stopped moving. So yeah, that is what I will say about getting into the theme park. And when you get into the theme park, they hand you a physical ticket and a $25 gift card, and then you're on your own. You're in the park. So that catches us up to how we got in.
How did you use the gift card? Because didn't you have to mobile order your food?
You did, and unfortunately, you had to enter the gift card manually every time you ordered any object.
Well, you used it up in the first one or two, right?
Yeah. By the third thing, you're paying for half of what you want, and then the rest is going on your credit card. So
could you use that gift card for merchandise? And did they sell merchandise?
Some shops were open, but you could only use it for food and no alcohol.
Oh my God.
And I guess it's sort of commemorative card, like the
that you
ticket
just
that
left
they give
in your
you.
back pocket.
The ticket that they give you is sort of, a little Pixar Pier moment. So yeah, it's not. That piece is interesting because, again, I don't see this as a normal business model. I see this as Disney trying to be creative. And I'll be completely honest, it was crowded. It did not feel like an empty theme park. It felt like, it was all you could do to stay 6 feet away from other people.
Do you have any idea what that capacity was? Was there any way to get an idea about that, since they have to determine, like, the park is opening in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, I think that the initial park opening amount, they're aiming for 15% for initial, and then they'll bump it up to 30% the way that Disney World did. Because technically, by mid-June, the governor is hoping to release.
I get it. Yeah,
business.
I don't understand. I love how they have just this arbitrary date that.
Yeah, just a date. I don't know. I don't know what mid-June is going to do, but it might do something, apparently. I will say, like, I want to say mid-May, every one of my friends will have had their second vaccine by then. So I do see it being possible that many young people, I'm in a younger demographic in my 30s. I see it possible that many young people will be fully vaccinated by June. And maybe that's their logic, is like, we can open up more in the state because of that. I'll also say that I didn't really feel anxious the way that I might have if I weren't vaccinated. It's like, yes, I wore my mask and I did all the normal stuff, but I didn't feel super anxious walking around the park. It sort of just felt like, wow, it's crowded, but I'm safe. So that was sort of the way I approached it. They changed this event every weekend. Literally, there have been things different about it every weekend. Early on, it was like you could order at the booth. Then they switched to you can mobile order, or you can order at this one location what you want for later. And now it is mobile order only. You can't pay in person at any of the festival booths. It's only mobile order.
And that's the way it is at Disney World right now, Christy, for the most.
Can you get a counter?
Yeah.
Well, you kind of have allergies, but quick service is mobile order, but festival booths are not. You still have to walk up.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, okay, so let me just give you a brief overview of what was even offered food-wise, and then I can explain how the booths work. So,
well, before you do that, I get a quick so just to kind of put it into context. So this all took place in California Adventure. It wasn't in Disneyland at all, right?
Um,
Right.
yeah, there was no access to Disneyland whatsoever. In
And then
fact,
once
they're over there feverishly getting Disneyland ready for
cleaning and
the opening, trying to put plexiglass everywhere so that the lines can be distanced. But yeah, it's not open yet.
And then once you got into it, you walked down. Why am I totally drawing a blank? Towards Carthay Circle, the main
Buena Vista Street.
Buena Vista Street. Could you go anywhere in the park, or was it just like a one-way around? Or
Yeah, so the only part of the park that was closed off, the only part was the end of Hollywood Boulevard, the like painted sunset sort of thing that they have there. You could walk to the edge of that building, but not onto the street that has, I almost said Tower of Terror, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Breakaway,
Yeah.
break something.
Mission
Yeah.
Breakout. You
Something breaks.
you
The better
can't
of the
even
two rides.
see the street that Mission Breakout is on,
don't care.
because there's a rope there. But the reason why is because that is technically Marvel Land now. So
Was
like
that
if
open?
you, it's closed. It was
Okay.
walled off. You could not get into Marvel Land in any way.
Oh yeah, you
Um,
posted a picture that showed nothing, but
Yeah, I tried to
Oh.
lift my phone up as high as I could, but literally you could barely see just the tops of the facades.
and you're tall.
I'm tall. No, they don't want people to see in there right now. But that being said, it's a little weird because when Joe Rohde built redid Tower of Terror as Mission Breakout, they knew that Marvel Land was coming. And so that is technically the first building built for the new Marvel Land. And then they're building all these other buildings around it. And what a lot of people forget about is that at D23, they announced on this one plot of land, it's literally the only plot of land left in the original California Adventure blueprint. This one plot of land would have a massive e-ticket with an all-new ride vehicle concept. And that's technically still supposed to come to Marvel Land. When that happens, I have no idea. The pandemic could have changed a lot, but that's supposed to come to Marvel Land. And so even the facade for that building is built already. It's just that building doesn't exist yet.
So you get into California Adventure, and I thought that was great. You know, your walk down Buena Vista Street, and kind of like how excited you were to walk down there. And I'm talking about, I guess Chris put it on Instagram in the story mode there, kind of his like an overview of some of the experiences you had. But so then you could go anywhere in the park, and there was food everywhere, and there was different entertainment things going on. So I guess, Christy, take it away with the food. Yeah, I guess the two of you guys take it away with the food.
So we had several questions about the pickle, but you didn't eat the pickle, correct?
I did not, because it's not in the Touch of Disney event lineup. That is actually at a corn dog cart in downtown Disney.
So you couldn't eat the pickle.
I couldn't because I'll just quickly fast forward that we actually left the event at 7:15. It didn't end till 8, but we were like, let's go to downtown Disney. Well, little did we know it was like an hour wait to get into downtown Disney because they are limiting the number of people allowed into downtown Disney. So they're treating downtown Disney as a separate entrance, and you can't just leave California Adventure and go there. So we were like, all right, bye. Because we weren't going to just stand in. The line was not moving, and it was like hundreds of people long. We weren't just going to stand in that line to go to downtown Disney. We were like, all right, never mind. But Seth would, I believe, Seth, my husband, would 100% try that pickle hot dog thing. And I would just gag in the corner.
Maybe describe it for people that don't know what it was, because I didn't know what it was until I saw it.
It is a pickle that has been hollowed out, and then they shove a hot dog in it, and then they put a stick in it, and they dip it into corn dog batter. Then they roll it in breadcrumbs, deep fry it, and then for no logical reason, they serve it with peanut butter dipping sauce.
Peanut butter.
Wait, peanut butter?
Literally peanut butter.
That's a weird taste of flavor. I mean, combination of flavors.
I feel like that is something that pregnant people crave, right? Pickles and peanut butter. So I feel like they have a pregnant person on their menu team who was like, you know what? We're going to make it. And now it's an Instagram famous thing that I bet you is going to pop up all around Disney properties because everybody's like, I gotta try this weird thing. Apparently the taste combination is delicious. I would never.
But
ever.
look at everybody's talking about it.
Derry says, pickle dog, yikes. No, laughing out loud.
I mean, even if it were no, the peanut butter is what throws me for a loop. And it is a dipping sauce, so I guess you just don't have to use it. But like, can we not? I think we cannot.
Okay, so back to California Adventure then, I guess. What did you get to try? What were some of your favorites?
So we got to try everything that we wanted. The one thing that sort of threw us for a loop at the beginning was that you can't pre-order. We had originally thought we're just going to go up, pre-order everything we want, and then walk up to the booth throughout the day as we decide we're ready for it. Couldn't do that. So instead, you had to be constantly in the app looking for windows for mobile order, which were sometimes 3 hours into the future. And then you would mobile order and be like, am I going to want this thing in 3 hours? I guess. So, we basically treated the day like, let's find a table where 6 people could sit. First in Cars Land, because got to be in Cars Land. And so we spent the first 3 hours of the event in Cars Land, and then people just left the table in like groups of 2 to go pick up their food and would just bring it back. So it was really just like enjoying the ambiance of Cars Land. They got rid of all of the individual land music and had one soundtrack for the entire event that just played on every speaker in the entire park. And the soundtrack was like remixes of Disney songs. Like it was no Disney version you've ever heard. It was like the Kids Bop version of every Disney song, which, not quite my jam, but my friend group did have a really good time thinking of like different styles that you could sing different Disney songs in. Like we were trying to figure out like, would Hi Ho work better as a rap or like a reggae moment? So we were doing a lot of that, singing our own versions of Disney songs throughout the day, which was fun. And it was also, if you go check out those Instagram stories, I don't think they're saved, but
I believe I can go back in and save them, so I will.
So we'll go back in and create like a saved story tab, but basically on Instagram. But basically, it was a perfect Southern California day, like 70s, not a cloud in the sky, good air quality. Which for those of you who've lived through a California fire season, you know that air quality matters. It was literally a picture perfect day. And it's springtime, so Disneyland like shines in the spring. The flowers are blooming, everything looked perfect. And they do this in Disney World too. They put the characters in new and unexpected places that are far away from you, so you can't like get too close to them. But like over in the Pacific Wharf, Goofy and Max were fishing. Like
oh my God, that is adorable.
Yeah, like throwing a fishing pole into the water, and then every time they reeled it up, there would be like a rubber duck that they caught. And like the Redwood Creek Challenge Trail, Daisy was wearing like a park ranger outfit and like exploring. And then over in the Redwood Creek area as well, there was Chip and Dale, and they were doing like juggling, but neither of them could juggle. So it was funny just to watch them try to juggle. Marcus Monroe is much better. And who else did we see? Mickey Mouse. He had like a little grandstand area over by Little Mermaid. He didn't do special stuff. He just stood there, and he is being Mickey.
It looked like you could kind of take distant pictures with him, or
with
did they
him,
have
yeah.
Photographers.
Specifically,
okay.
I think Mickey Mouse was just sort of there to look cute. And then Joy was over at the emotional whirlwind, holding one of the like happy orbs and like waving and dancing. The Incredibles, different characters in The Incredibles were over at the Incredicoaster, sort of being like, this is our home. So there was a lot of character interactions that were just fun. And honestly, I missed it so much that just seeing them from 30 feet away made my heart melt a little. And I just really had fun watching those Disney characters again. So yeah, the ambiance with the music, and also every so often they would interrupt it with like a 1930s sounding radio, like dun dun dun, and then it would just be like a radio person being like, "Wear your mask. you could get other people sick. You got to be careful, June," which was like funny and like just sort of an interesting Buena Vista Street vibe.
How
Randomly, the Starbucks was closed, so the only coffee in the park was the like subpar coffee cart over at Pacific Wharf. So it was no Starbucks, and a lot of the shops are closed. I would say probably 50% of the shopping locations were closed throughout the park. That being said, some of the biggest shopping locations were open, and they had some
getting into those.
There were lines to get into those usually, but they were only like maybe 3 to 5 minute waits. So not too bad. And also the event has like a crescendo peak between 2 and 5 where it's just like slammed and every booth has a wait. You can't find food. It's really intense. But literally after 5, every booth was, the mobile order had moved to like now. So you could get anything you didn't get earlier in the day, you could get then. Which when the event first started, there were people being like, I really wanted this thing, but they sold out. And it's not like that anymore. Disney has figured out how much of what things people want, and you could pretty much get anything as long as you're willing to stay till the end of the day. So yeah, that was a bonus that Disney has figured it out, that they know, okay, we need to have this many Monte Cristo sandwiches, this many pizza egg rolls, things like that.
So go ahead, Christy.
Are all the foods that you tried foods you would regularly be able to get between the two parks?
Yes. I'm trying to think if there was anything that was like event specific. I don't know where you would go to get a single delicious Mickey waffle, so that was kind of new. It was almost like a concept that I'm like, I'd be down for this. Like, can we have just like a Mickey waffle cart that like gives you one perfect Mickey waffle? Because that would be great.
And with like the
put
whipped
syrup
cream
and berries and whipped cream. It literally was like the perfect and the sun was glistening off the syrup. I was like, I am an Instagram influencer right now, because this is a gorgeous photo op of this Mickey pancake. So that would be something that I would be like, you can't normally, I don't know where you would normally get that. I know you can normally get Mickey waffles, but getting a perfect single Mickey waffle, that felt unique. These pepperoni pizza egg rolls were like a hit 2 or 3 years ago at the Food and Wine Festival. They don't normally sell them in the park, but they are from previous festivals, and they always sell really well. They're little teeny tiny egg rolls with pesto and marinara sauce. I would say that those remind me of like gourmet Tostino's pizza rolls. Like they're just like high quality pizza rolls basically. But those were something you can't normally get. The majority of the stuff you can usually find in other places.
So we got a couple comments before we go on, before we get to the mother of all questions. How was the churro? But good to see Chad. Chad's got his drink for all of us. He's got us covered. Seth says Disneyland was over $30 before the pandemic for parking. So answer for that one.
I forgot about that.
Dennis says the horror of less than good coffee is real. I completely agree with you, Dennis. I mean, one of these days, DCL is going to put some really good coffee in the mass market coffee, I guess I should say. And Kyle
they're just going to expand they're just going to expand Starbucks, is my guess.
Why would they? They can charge money for it, so they're not going to.
Well, that's my hope. Kyle asks, "How was the Monte Cristo? Did you try that?"
He did try it. According to
how was it?
I did, and
can I just say real quick, Steve clearly did not go to our Instagram stories to see.
No, I watched it, but I remember the alfresco thing.
No,
I was like looking
it was amazing.
Yeah, I was looking at like the park and everything. I guess I remember the walk through into Cars Land and everything like that. I'm a food guy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was exciting.
Okay, Monte Cristo. What was it?
Monte Cristo. So Monte Cristo. First of all, I would never want a Monte Cristo from one of those food booths, because here's how the food booths work. For those of you who don't know, they do not make food in those food booths.
Oh, right.
They deliver food to those food booths and keep them in warmers. So a deep fried anything that, like, first of all, deep fried things don't taste good unless they are right out of the fryer. Like, nobody wants like 2-hour-old fish and chips. They want fresh fried fish and chips. So that's one thing where the Monte Cristo, I was like, I don't even want that. And then I found out that it was actually being served from Smoke Jumpers Cafe, which is a restaurant, a table service or a quick service restaurant in California Adventure. And that made me excited because I was like, okay, well then they can make it fresh, and they did. I got a piping hot, just fried Monte Cristo, and it was served with a salad. I mean, a single blackberry.
Right.
But there was something not fried on the plate. So yeah, and it's like also the perfect portion, because I don't know if you've ever ordered a Monte Cristo from Blue Bayou, but like I cannot eat like 6 or 8, however many triangles they serve you. It's so much that you're just like, no, I can't eat this much of this deep fried sandwich. So it was 2 wedges of Monte Cristo. For those of you who don't know, it is a ham and cheese sandwich dipped in like a fish and chips batter, like a wet batter that they then deep fry. They sprinkle powdered sugar on it, and they serve it with blackberry jam. So I know that sounds weird, and that sounds like, you need to take some fish oil to counterbalance those omega-3 moments, but it was good. I can't lie. I really liked it. And normally I have not been a person who craves that type of sandwich, but it was delicious.
Okay, Chris, churro, did it live up to your expectations?
So Disneyland. Christy, tell me if I'm wrong, but is Disney World doing these like flavored churros?
Well, Disney World, no, I don't think so.
Okay, so at Disneyland, because Christy and I have this argument all the time, and it's really not worth having, because Christy's Disney World churro is freshly made from a fryer, gluten-free magic. That doesn't count. What I say when I say that Disney World has foul churros that don't deserve the name churro is these things that they keep in warmers were cooked hours ago in a kitchen that they brought out, that are sometimes literally the consistency of rubber, and they just don't taste good. Whereas at Disneyland, every churro cart in Disneyland has an oven on it. And so the churros are falling off of the oven conveyor belt into cinnamon sugar and then being given to you while they're piping hot.
Ooh,
that real? Is obviously delicious. And there's no arguing with how delicious that is, because it's just clearly delicious. But Disneyland has tried this new thing where they're like, we can roll it in other things besides cinnamon sugar. And so they roll it in like horchata sugar, or I can't even think of all the things they've done. Cocoa powder. For Star Wars events, they do red and blue powder that like makes it look like a lightsaber, and they serve it with a hilt instead of a wax paper, things like that. So for this event, they had a bunch of different types of churros. They had a horchata churro, a churro with chocolate chips and like vanilla dipping or vanilla icing. And then they had a cookies and cream churro. I am an Oreo fan, so I went for the cookies and cream churro, and I gotta say, it was fine. It wasn't as good as, to me, just a classic cinnamon sugar, but it was better than anything you get in Florida, except for the fresh made whatevers. It was better than a not gluten-free churro in Florida. So that's what I'll say about the churro I had. I chose to only get one churro, and the one I got was fine. It was cookies and cream.
I feel like we should call the churros restaurant churros versus cart churros.
Right. I agree with you. I agree with you.
People don't know this, but when they are eating the churros at Three Bridges or at Nomad Lounge, everybody's eating a gluten-free churro. No, they don't know that. But it's being served to every single person the exact same way. All gluten-free, all amazing. Actually, that might not be entirely true at Three Bridges, but you can definitely get a fresh-made gluten-free churro option, or a fresh made gluten-containing option.
Also, I shouldn't say that I have never had the churro at Nomad Lounge. I have had the churro at Three Bridges.
You have?
I have. Yeah. For work, I went to a conference that was there with some company. I don't remember, but they had bought it out and they served churros to us.
They were not gluten-free then. So that means you did have a different churro.
A different churro. Yeah, it was, but it seemed like the type of churro where they like pipe it into oil and it's like fresh batter. So that was unique, because the churros even at Disneyland are pre-made that they basically put in an oven, but they're really good. Anyway, we're renaming the podcast to the Disneyland Churro Podcast until the cruises start going again.
We're gonna cover all the churros. So you go to Japan to get the flavored popcorns, and you go to Disneyland to get the flavored churros now, huh?
That's true. That's literally very accurate. Disneyland's niche is flavored churros, and we are here for them.
So did I know Carthay Circle was open. You probably had to get reservations for that. You guys didn't go to Carthay Circle at all.
We didn't go to Carthay or Lamplight.
Okay.
Between the two, I would have chosen Lamplight. I had some friends with some dietary restrictions, primarily vegetarian dietary restrictions, and Lamplight has vegetarian potato skins that are served with like Greek yogurt, like fancy sort of Greek-inspired flavors. And I would have wanted my friends to be able to get those because they were craving them. But that didn't work out. It was fully booked. Also, Lamplight, when they first started the event, Lamplight was only doing top level seating, but the rules have changed in California to allow indoor-outdoor spaces. And so Lamplight even opened up additional reservations, but they were impossible to get. So, and the thing is, people go to Lamplight for these nachos with lobster on them. And that's not my jam anyway. So my thing about Lamplight is they have pretty good burgers. They have fun drinks. They have drinks kind of like in Star Wars Land where it has dry ice in it and it bubbles, which is fun. So they're sort of like a good option for California adventure, just like fun cocktails, alfresco dining, things like that.
Plus, it's got a great view of the Incredicoaster.
The Incredicoaster and the Ferris wheel, and you know, the World of Color Lagoon is right there, so it is a really cool restaurant.
Yeah. Oh, I had a question. Shoot, I lost it. Well, so ambiance-wise, the rides were riding, or several of the rides were going. Nobody was on them.
They were operating.
They were operating. Yeah. So was that like a good thing or a bad thing? And I could, like, in some ways I think it like adds to the ambiance, but in some ways you're like, man, I wish I could be on that.
I have a question about that before you even answer. So at Walt Disney World, some of the rides have noises like people screaming, like Tower of Terror. I don't know. I don't.
Did you hear people screaming?
They play.
Yes, I want
a
to
soundtrack
know
of people yelling.
If the soundtrack is going, like Slinky Dog, and I always make it do that because you know how it does a little bump. So Slinky Dog has like people going around the turn and we know that plays when it runs because we were waiting and there was not a person on there, and yet the sound of was going. So did that happen?
No, I don't think we have that at Disneyland. I mean, I don't. At least I didn't hear it. What I heard was, you know, just the sound of whooshing by as like the vehicles would zoom by, but nothing recorded.
Test Track does a recorded like
scream?
Yelp of scream of people going around as well.
See, you know, but that's the difference between Disneyland and Disney World. I mean, we have a real roller coaster out there with the Incredicoaster, and Slinky Dog's kind of like, that's like Goofy Sky School or something like that.
It is not. I would flick you. I would do some other sort of gesture, perhaps, none of which I can do on this family show. So,
all right. What about other entertainment? Did they have? Well, I want to go back with the music. To me, it seems like this would be kind of more of an adult event versus kids.
Yeah, I don't know what the kids were doing. I mean, there weren't that many kids there, I'll be honest. Although, what am I saying? I probably was just like trying to avoid the topic of children. So I might not have been paying attention, but it did not feel like particularly like, I don't know. Our kids like really excited to go to a food festival.
Yeah.
Especially because the whole thing is the foods at the food festival booths are kind of adventurous, not really adventurous, but there wasn't a lot of like chicken tenders. It was a lot more like, I mean,
there are children that eat very well. So, but
That's true. But Disney, you also know that Disney is like known for always offering bland kids food because they know that kids like chicken tenders and fries. Mm-hmm. And that actually was hard to find, at least at the festival booths. The festival booths was a lot of like sweet and spicy chicken wings, or like, macaroni and cheese with a white cheddar sauce and red pepper breadcrumbs, things like that, where it's like, you can't get those at even a normal Disneyland.
So did they have, besides those two sit-down restaurants, did they have other restaurants open?
award wieners. It's a pun. So for those of you who like puns, I don't know how many of you will know this, but when California Adventure originally opened, it was universally panned as the worst Disney park ever created. Now I think it's one of the best, but when it opened, it was panned as the worst Disney park ever created. And one of the reasons that people hated it is because everything that they built was a pun. Everything. There was not a single restaurant in that park that didn't have a name that was a pun. And I'm telling you puns like Malibu Ritos.
God.
Or I can't even think of all.
So Steve would have loved it.
Steve does like a good pun. It was literally aimed at dads. Is the moral of the story.
Puns, dad jokes, all of it. Steve.
But now,
bad taste
what's
all
left?
Around, right?
What's left of that era is award wieners instead of award winners. So you can still eat at the OG award wieners.
So was that it? Besides,
award wieners was open. Smoke Jumpers was open.
So you could get the normal Smoke Jumpers menu.
No, it was a food and wine festival menu. Actually, every menu in the park was adjusted. Nothing was normal. So like some of the places were open, but they had limited offerings. For example, Flo's was open in Cars Land, but the only two things you could get there were a burger or fried chicken. That's all.
Did there come with French fries with your burger?
The burger probably had French fries. I just mean like it was their normal menu has like shepherd's pie and like a really good apple pie with cheddar cheese, things like that they don't have right now. It's literally like, do you want a milkshake? Fine, we'll give you that. That was all the desserts they offered. And then it was like, we'll offer you a burger with fries or a fried chicken dinner with like veggies and mashed potatoes. So that was different.
Yeah. Sarah T commented that her wallet wishes that her kid liked Disney kid food. I get that. So it's expensive. I'm curious, whoever's listening, we have people listen. We have some of our listeners listening right now live. If you are listening, would you have brought your child at $75 to a touch, which I still want to call it Taste of Disney?
Taste of Disney.
Let's rename it.
I mean, would we do it? I don't know. I mean, we weren't going to. Originally, when we got tickets, we had a child living with us.
Well, yes, but that child wouldn't have cost money.
No, it would have been free to go in. You're right. But our plan was to leave her behind and take a sort of like date day away with just adults and Steve's kids. But they're older kids who are like a little more traveled.
Yeah, and I bet his kids would eat all that. So Kyle has a 16-year-old. He would take his child. Steve was obviously going to take his kids.
Yeah.
What else were you going to do at Disneyland in California, Steve? Were you just like flying in for the day and flying out the next day, or?
Yeah, man, I'm losing my voice. Sorry about this. Hold on just a second. Hold that question.
Let him take a moment. Let's see. Anthony Hatch did respond to our earlier question that there are no flavored churros at Disney World. I didn't think so. Sarah said she would take her children that her child
is super adventurous.
Yeah.
Yes, super adventurous.
And Jan says I wouldn't because my son is too picky. Which, yeah, I mean, if you had a kid who wanted chicken tenders, you could get them at Flo's. The kids menu at Flo's had chicken tenders.
Oh, but so Flo's was open.
Flo's was open.
Where were you?
I love
this was
Flo's.
5 minutes ago. We had this conversation 5 minutes ago.
We talked about Flo's?
Remember?
Did I totally miss that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I went over my head.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Just rewind. I will say there were Cucina Cucamonga, which normally serves Mexican food, was open with potato street taco was their vegetarian option.
Whoa.
Everyone in my group tried that and said that it was the best thing at the festival. It was like a potato that was really seasoned with something green and like flavorful. And then the potato was deep fried and then put inside of a taco.
Oh my God.
And people were like thrilled with that dish. So that was at Cucina Cucamonga. Also at Cucina Cucamonga was Bengal tiger skewers or Bengal barbecue skewers from Disneyland. So if you really love those skewers from Adventureland at the Bengal barbecue, they were selling them here at this event. I didn't get them because I actually have never been that big of a fan of those chicken and beef skewers, but they were available for people if they wanted to get the skewers that you can get at Disneyland.
So we've talked a lot about the food. We've talked about the characters. Any other entertainment? I guess, was there any alcohol there? Did they have like
alcohol
the beer truck?
everywhere?
Yeah, okay.
Yes, it was alcohol city. Pretty much every booth had alcohol.
Where does he go when his screen
Sorry
goes?
about it. Can you hear me?
It's like an internet thing. We can still hear you, Steve. I think it's just your
it's my
screen.
camera is messing up with the internet, so sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah,
no worries. You still sound crisp.
What was the mask compliance like? And did it start one way and end another way?
Because people got drunk, you mean?
Because people enjoyed maybe adult beverages. Yes.
Yeah. I would say mask compliance was high. When people were around tables, there wasn't a lot of mask wearing. But when people were walking, the only thing that just gets under my skin is people wearing their mask off of their nose. I just can't handle that.
So they were still doing that there in California. That's been closed for so long.
It's just like the random people like that do it. And I'm just like, why? Why? But
I actually posted on Instagram the other day that if you are wearing your mask with your nose out, I am judging you because I am. And I judge the people who are just not wearing a mask actually less than I am judging the people whose noses are sticking out.
Right. I mean, Disney's policy is so particular too. It's like, you will be wearing a mask if you're moving.
Right.
Like if you are moving,
don't.
You need a mask on. And so the idea that there are people with their nose showing, but they're walking, I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'll be honest and say, because I ordered a couple drinks that had straws, I sometimes would tuck the straw up into my mask and drink while I was walking.
Yeah.
But like nobody was going to come for me for that. But like the whole pulling the mask down to do stuff while you're moving, that's just a no-no. We also at one point were around a table, but we had finished eating. And I just don't even think we realized like that we weren't wearing masks. It was just we were talking at a table. And someone came up to us, a worker there, specifically to my friend, and was like, Empress, don't forget to put your mask on, which I'm like, Empress, what are we doing here? But we obviously were very gracious about it. We weren't like, what? We were like, oh yeah, of course, and put our masks on, because don't get mad at Disney employees for enforcing rules that you knew about. Like, what? So, that's the whole vibe, I think. There were no fights that broke out over mask wearing. There was no like hardcore tension, but I would say probably 5% of people were like pretty lax with the nose or things like that.
So any other entertainment then around besides the characters? Did they have like music? I mean, obviously they had the background music, but did they have any like
They had photo ops.
Okay.
There was one place, there was like a Falcon and Winter Soldier photo op that was called Wield the Shield. And I was like, nobody's picking up this shield. It is a pandemic. So,
yeah, but was it like the seat?
Oh no, people are totally picking up that shield.
It was built into the set. You couldn't even touch it. It was just behind you. But I'm like, why are you calling it Wield the Shield? Like nobody's holding this shield. They're standing in front of it and like doing a peace sign. But
were there PhotoPass photographers?
There were, and PhotoPasses were included with the ticket. So like you could get downloads of your pictures included. We did not actually take any pictures with PhotoPass, though. We were just like, whatever, it's fine.
Did they bring you can remove your mask for pictures to Disneyland?
Oh, no, you could not remove your mask for pictures. You have to keep your mask on during photos. Also, I will note that you could do, what do they call them? The carnival games, boardwalk games were included. Like
skee ball.
Could you win a prize?
You did not win a prize, but you could play them in as part of the event. And they were distanced and wiped down between each game, so the line was long. We didn't do it, but we saw that it was offered, which is a nice, olive branch, I guess.
I have to say, Disney is doing so amazing with their cleaning routine and things like that right now. It is like,
oh yeah,
on point.
To the point where I'm like, the Imagineers did not design that thing to be wiped down with abrasive chemicals every 4 minutes, and that thing is going to need to be replaced in a year. But nice of you to keep it clean for now. Like, I'll give you a perfect example of something that was not designed to be wiped down constantly. The game controllers on Midway Mania. Those things are like, they have to be replaced because they get rubbery and sticky after they get wiped down with those chemicals. So stuff like that, it'll be interesting how the Imagineers solve this problem, because even long after COVID is not the big issue anymore, I think there is something built into the global psyche that says we need to be cleaner and we need to be more sanitary. And so companies are going to want to still offer these sorts of cleanings to make people more comfortable. I think, and I'm so excited about this, I think that well into the future, Disney parks will have hundreds of hand sanitizing machines around their property, because it just makes you feel more comfortable. I'm also like, why were we not sanitizing immediately before getting on Midway Mania?
Can I just say that my family has been doing that for 8 years.
Of course we are too. We would even go to the bathroom and wash our hands because, kids, they get you sick.
Prior to the pandemic, we were already washing our hands before every meal. But after every ride for Blake's whole entire little life, it wasn't the alcohol based, but it was like the little baby Gannix, but the purse size. We would hand sanitize after every single ride.
Yeah.
Because
I think that stuff was a part of the event. If anything, the event gave you a window into what Disneyland is planning to do to make people more comfortable. And what that looks like is pretty much the entire ground of the property has physical distance markers everywhere. So what 6 feet is from the next person in front of you because it's marked everywhere you go. And people at the urinals,
they still won't use them.
Right.
Yeah. Tell me about what's the urinals are. Yeah.
So, you heard it here, folks. So the bathrooms had attendants who were literally being like, wait, because I think that subconsciously people wouldn't follow those markers if there wasn't someone saying, go do that. So the urinals did have it so there was nobody right next to you, which honestly, can we get that as like a permanent fixture for the rest of our lives, that nobody has to use a urinal right next to you? I'm here for that, that policy to be enacted. However, the way they do it is they put a circle on the ground of the urinal that is allowed to be used, and you stand on that circle, basically. So there's stuff like that in the bathrooms. I think some stalls it was like, don't use this stall, use this stall. So even stalls were being blocked off.
They're not doing any of that at Disney World. Steve, what are the Walt Disney World bathrooms like? The men's room. Was there any?
No, there's absolutely nothing in there that's any different than normal.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I don't think so.
Well, California. Yeah, so that was happening. Also, when we first got there, there's a show on Disney Plus called High School Musical, the musical, the series.
Oh, that's right. I remember you talking about this.
When we first got there, I turned around and there was someone right behind us in security. And I was like, that's a kid from that show. And I was sure of it. And then immediately a Disney cast member came up and then and basically walked that person through the park as like a special tour guide. So there was a Disney Plus celebrity in the park with us, which,
Could you have gotten a VIP tour? Could you have gotten a plaid to show you through a touch of Disney, Chris, if you wanted to?
The funny thing is, I don't think that this kid wanted to be known that he was there. And so the person who was walking him around had a Disney badge, but was not wearing plaid. Okay. It seemed literally like a manager or maybe like a Imagineer even, not just a typical plaid. So that was interesting. There were plaids all over the park, though, who were basically there to answer questions.
So we got about 10 more minutes, guys, before we
wrap
get out of here.
Okay. So,
Chris, you got a couple questions, and
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
What overall was your favorite food item? Was it the potato taco or your churro?
My favorite food item is a very particular thing to me, which is that I am a mac and cheese connoisseur, and Disneyland
have so many levels, Chris.
And Disneyland is terrible with mac and cheese, as is Disney World. But the difference is Disney World has sit-down restaurants that have fancy mac and cheese. Like that
But kids don't
restaurant in
want
the
that.
France Pavilion has like Gruyere cheese sauce with pasta, delicious, right? But at Disneyland, it's basically Velveeta, and that's disgusting and shouldn't exist. And so, personal preference, I'm sorry everybody who likes it. For me, I do not like that Kraft mac and cheese stuff. So, Food Festival is literally the only time that you can get a proper cheese sauce with macaroni. And so they had a white cheddar mac and cheese with Parmesan cheese and red pepper breadcrumbs, and then like thick cut chunks of bacon on top. It was basically the most delicious thing, and I lived for it. And I got 2 of them. I went back later.
You put bacon on anything, right? And it just
and it makes it better.
What about Seth?
Seth's favorite thing was the taco, I think. Yeah. Most people who had that taco loved it. I didn't even have the taco, so I don't know.
How did you not have the favorite taco?
Because everyone who ordered it ate their whole thing, and there was no sharing. So I didn't order it, and we never went back to that specific location. They also serve a Bavarian pretzel with the cheese from the end of a Run Disney race. So
Plastic
it was,
cheese or the
it was nice to try some of that salty plastic cheese again, because we haven't had that in ages. But yeah, I would say the actual favorite was the mac and cheese. The like sleeper hit for me, because I normally don't like it, was the Monte Cristo. It's normally not my jam, but it was delicious.
How's the Monte Cristo not your jam? But I get it. It's fine. Too greasy, blah, blah, blah. Too much, blah, blah, blah. But how is it not? It's amazing.
Yeah, it feels really heavy in your stomach. But 2 little wedges, perfect. So yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, and I didn't even mention it, but they had a watermelon agua fresca that was watermelon with lime juice in it and a wedge of lime. It was so good. Like the most refreshing, and also because watermelon isn't that sweet. It was like not too sweet, but just the right amount of sweet, and super cold and refreshing on like a warm California day. It was amazing. I loved it. That was the first thing I had, was that watermelon agua fresca.
Do you have any other questions, Christy?
I do. So Kim Slusher, friend of the show, we love Kim, asked on Instagram, are you glad you went?
So I am. I think had I known how quickly the parks were going to reopen when we got these tickets, right? Because it hadn't been announced yet that they were reopening. No. And then we got the tickets, and then they were like, we're going to reopen. So had I known the parks were going to reopen so quickly, would I have saved that time and just gone? Probably. But I also sort of feel like this is an event that probably will never happen again. Right. And also, I didn't mention it yet, but anyone who bought tickets to this event who was previously an annual pass holder was allowed to go to an annual pass holder corner. And they gave us these magnets for our cars or fridges that say Legacy Pass Holder, with a special Legacy Pass Holder logo that they've designed. Because the big controversy, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is that Disneyland is saying that the pass holder program is over. And they have not said that the pass holder program is coming back. What they have said is, we are excited to announce a new program. And everyone's sort of like, well, what's the new program if it's not an annual pass program? And what I think the new program will be is a reservation program that says, maybe you can buy a ticket that includes 8 days a year, and you choose whatever 8 days you want to make a reservation on, or something like that. But I think it'll be very difficult to get an annual pass in the future. And so it felt kind of special to get this Legacy Pass Holder magnet. Not for it probably holds no monetary value. It's just sentimental value, because I've been an annual pass holder for a long time, since high school. And so for me to not be an annual pass holder anymore feels weird. And, that's complicated. I will say that, like if I want to go to Disneyland right now, I have to buy a full price ticket. Like I just have to go in.
That's tough. I can't even believe they didn't give discounts at all.
No, it's literally just you have to buy a full price ticket to get into the park, which is just not something I'm used to, which honestly means that we probably would only go to the park maybe twice a year, maybe 3 times. I don't know, but we wouldn't be going as much as we normally did. And that just feels weird to me. I don't know. It's awkward almost because it just feels like this thing that has been so much a part of my identity, this place that I have like played and explored the world and like made so many memories with friends is now like an upcharge that I can't really afford. So it's like it doesn't feel great. But, I'm trying not to think much about that because honestly, they're going to announce something. We just don't know what it is. Maybe it'll be a lot more inclusive than I think. But at this point, I think Disney's biding their time and just waiting to see how this pandemic is going to shake out. And then they'll decide, what does this pass holder program look like?
Well,
I've decided, sorry, Steve, that your legacy pass holder has a $10 value because that's what it's being sold for on eBay.
I was going to mention that same thing, but also do not put that on your car, Chris, because it may disappear quickly.
Yeah. No. Also,
go ahead, Chris.
Also, like, I know people who are pass holders, but from out of town, who have like just went and bought one on not Etsy, but eBay because it's like, well, I'd rather spend $10 on this thing than like not have this magnet. I think if Disney were really doing the right thing, they would send it out to everyone whose pass they canceled as a goodwill gesture. But they're not doing that. So instead, the only way to get this thing is to go to that pass holder corner and pick it up yourself, which I did. And now I have it. We have 2 because of Seth.
Hopefully they'll, I'm sure they didn't run out of all of them. And I bet you when the park's open, they may have a pass.
They'll have a pass holder legacy corner. The one thing they did do, for those of you who are previous pass holders, you should have gotten an email about this. But if you didn't, to get your pass holder discount, all you have to do is have a scannable barcode in your Disneyland app. And that gives you whatever discount you would have gotten before. So I actually did get discounts throughout the day on anything that I purchased, because not at festival booths, but at regular restaurants and retail locations. And so that was nice. It was a nod to me being a historic pass holder, even though I'm not one now.
So as we kind of finish up, guys, thanks for everybody who came and took a listen. It's been fun hearing about your experience down at Touch of Disney. I'm sorry we didn't make it down there, but I'm glad that you got to spend it with some really good friends, Chris, and brighten your weekend.
I mean, I missed hanging out with you all, but it was nice to have some extra folks there.
Was that from the pop-up shop?
Yes, I have a little show and tell for the people who are listening. Or watching, rather. The people who are listening, this is not going to be exciting for you. But I went to the... Do you want me to interrupt and finish telling the story now?
Tell us about it. Because if there's people in Florida, even if you can't see what Christy got, you'll maybe want to stop by this thing as a DCL fan.
Yeah, so there is a DCL pop-up shop next to where like the kitchen market is at the Disney Co-op. So Disney Springs, the Co-op Marketplace. So you go like past where the World of Disney is. And then that's why, guys, I had to park at the Lime Garage because the Orange Garage is real far away. And I'm not sure that I'm happy about this, but I did offer to get some stuff for Chris. And as a result of that, I spent way too much of my own money. So, but there's this cute little bag and it says "Seas Every Day," which, I mean, come on, that is adorable. All right.
Spelled, it's a pun for those of you who are wondering why that's it's spelled like seas, like the oceans.
Like the ocean sea. I bought the hat too because I just could not help myself, and it's sparkly. And then it says Disney Cruise Line and sparkle at the side.
Oh, you look cute in that.
It was very girly. I have the shirt that actually says Disney Cruise Line over on this side and has these flowers.
Cute.
And then this is Chris and Seth's
Spirit jersey. I love Spirit jerseys. And they released a rainbow Disney Cruise Line Spirit jersey, obviously meant for me. They released it because of me. So I needed to get it, and it's sold out. You can't get it anywhere. So Christy literally was able to get it for us. And now Seth and I will sport that every day.
Steve has a red hat with the logo on it. They also had, did you see that picture I sent? That the coffee mug with the rainbow
Oh, yeah,
logo?
Yeah.
I think I need that for myself, just in case you're wondering, because I love
That's
a good
cute.
rainbow. So
Yeah.
this, everybody, let's just Disney
Oh.
Cruise Line luggage tag. I actually purchased. It's got a cute little string as a giveaway for the podcast. So I am going to come up with what the giveaway, how we're going to do it. It's going to involve, I'm sure, commenting and things of that nature. So we have a luggage tag that we will be doing a giveaway for in the near future.
It's super cute.
Thank you.
Love it.
There's a couple comments as we leave. Can't wait to check out the pop-up shop when we will be at Walt Disney World in May, hoping it's still there. So Sarah, I have good news. Disney has already announced that it will be there at least until September. So
good.
Who knows what they will have in stock? But
Yeah,
I
because-
have a feeling they will have things in stock because the cruise lines, in order for them to have merch available, they plan that stuff a season in advance, which means there's a ton of merch that Disney Cruise Line did not get to release on the ships that they will probably want to release. And so this pop-up shop will be there till September. And then a different Sarah says, I wish they had released the yellow rainbow DCL shirt. I saw it on YouTube and never again. I haven't seen that one, but I love a good rainbow. So if we find that, maybe we'll have to get that. So yeah, if you're going to Disney World at all this summer, go to Disney Springs, go to the Co-op, and check out the Disney Cruise Line pop-up shop because you'll be able to buy ship-exclusive things that you can't get normally.
They're so cute.
They should have done this a long time ago, shouldn't
Yeah,
they?
they should have.
They take so long to get their stuff together.
That's true. And then I'm trying to remember what they had, like the NBA in there before or something like that. When
they've had so much weird stuff in that Co-op.
The Co-op. Yeah.
Yeah, like sometimes I'm like one time there was an entire Co-op shop that was just goth clothes. It was just like gothic Disney. And I was like, this is so niche, but honestly, I'm kind of into it.
October's coming along, Mickey's Not So Scary. I can see it doing that. All right. Before we get out of here, we got a couple things to throw out there. The business of the podcast. How's that?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Very fatherly again. Go on.
Yeah, very, very official. First of all, I want to give a huge shout out to Amber. She took over our Instagram. Chris is a master Instagrammer, and I think Amber might be, no offense, Chris, like one step above you.
Oh,
I don't
she
know.
is amazing.
She's amazing.
I
don't know if we're allowed to say this, but she has like another Instagram account that's got like 200,000 followers about how to make crafts from Dollar General or Dollar Tree finds, and I'm Dollar Tree. I'm like, that's amazing. That's like such a specific thing, and people are all about it.
She is amazing. So go over. She's gonna try and do some stuff, I think, every now and then with her Instagram stories.
I think she's gonna do it for a couple of weeks at least.
Okay. We have to pay her. Holy cow, man! She was amazing.
Do you pay us?
I know.
Curious. Didn't know if we got
learning
that.
more about the hierarchy here, Chris.
Exactly. Also coming up, I hope you guys have been enjoying these live shows. We will get them up on the podcast feed as well. I know, I'll be completely honest. I struggle sometimes listening to live shows again, just on the podcast feed, but I know a lot of people do enjoy it, but we will make sure that we always put these up on the podcast feed as well. If you miss it, we've got a big one coming up April 29th. We don't have the details yet as far as what time, but that is the big Disney Wish reveal, which you, Christy, are going to get to watch.
I am so excited.
So tune in April 29th. We will have that set up, and then definitely we'll have that on the podcast immediately afterwards in the feed. And then I guess the last thing before we get out of here, Chris, you are headed back to Disneyland soon. And why don't you tell everybody when you're going and why it's so special?
Yeah, so June is Seth's birthday. And it just feels like a good reason to spend that kind of money. And another good reason to spend that kind of money is Marvel Land is opening on June 4th. And you know that I cannot stay away from an all-new land, especially not a new land with an e-ticket ride. Also, there's new additions to the Haunted Mansion. They redid Snow White. I haven't been on the version of Rise of the Resistance in California yet. I've only been on the Florida version. What? And so I have a ton of reasons to go to Disneyland. And so what we're going to do is go to Disneyland, stay at a hotel for Seth's birthday, and then the next day go to California Adventure. And then we will cover that here on the podcast. We'll tell you all about Marvel Land. We'll eat the food at Pym Lab, and we'll ride the new Spider-Man ride, and we'll tell you everything about the trip. We'll do like a trip report episode from that. I think Seth might be watching, and he doesn't even know this is his birthday gift yet, so he might be finding out. But yeah, so we have reservations in June, and that will be our chance to cover it for you all.
Awesome.
Sorry, Mike.
Well, as we get out of here, can you hear me still, Christy? Or we'll say hi to Blake real quick.
Say hi, Blake.
Hi.
We're talking. We were just talking about Disneyland. Do you remember when we went to Disneyland and there was Cars Land and you got to meet Lightning McQueen?
I remember that. It was really fun.
So that's what we were talking about, because Chris right there went to Disneyland yesterday.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I saw Lightning McQueen. I should have taken a picture of him.
Saw Lightning McQueen again.
You saw where he races around at Radiator Springs races too. Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
All right.
Say goodnight, Blake.
That's commented on
Good
the Facebook
night.
feed, so now he knows about his gift.
All right, guys. Well, thanks everybody for coming back and taking a listen. Thanks for everybody who watched. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for all your support of the show. We do appreciate it each and every week. Thanks to all our Patreon fans out there and Patreon supporters. And as we get out of here, we will have an episode up on Tuesday. It goes to our Port Adventure series that we're covering monthly. It is looking at the ports down on the west coast of Mexico, so down to Ensenada, Puerto Vallarta, and Cabo. And from there, like I said, the 29th Disney Wish Reveal Show, that's going to be really exciting. I cannot wait to see everything that they bring out. So once again, thanks for joining us. Christy, any final thoughts before we get out?
Wear your mask, please.
Yeah, let's get this pandemic over with. I am ready to sail on a cruise ship.
You and me both. So, all right. All the best to you and your families out there, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.